What if Shohei Ohtani isn't just dominating baseball anymore? What if he's breaking the sport itself? Because what happened against the Rockies honestly shouldn't exist in modern MLB. A player throws 6 hitless innings with upper 90s velocity, then leads off the game with a home run. Baseball spent decades evolving away from players like this. Pitchers became specialists. Hitters became specialists. The sport literally separated those roles to protect workloads and maximize efficiency. And then Ohtani showed up and started making the entire structure look outdated. Shohei Ohtani didn't just dominate the Rockies, he exposed the modern limits of baseball itself. Because what happened in this game shouldn't really exist anymore. A player throws 6 hitless innings with upper 90s velocity, then also leads off the game with a home run. That combination sounds fictional in today's MLB. The sport has evolved towards specialization for decades. Pitchers only pitch, sluggers only hit. Teams protect workloads obsessively. Roles are separated with surgical precision, and yet Ohtani keeps breaking the structure every time he steps on the field. Wednesday night against Colorado wasn't just another great performance. It was a reminder that the Dodgers aren't operating with a superstar. They're operating with a roster loophole disguised as a human being. The obvious narrative is easy. Ohtani dominates on the mound, hits a leadoff homer, Dodgers win 4-1. Rockies overmatched again. That's the headline. But that explanation actually undersells what made this performance so overwhelming, because the game wasn't decided by raw talent alone. It was decided by how Ohtani controlled tempo on both sides of the game simultaneously. That's what makes this different from a normal ace performance or a normal superstar hitting night. Most elite players influence one dimension of a game. Ohtani manipulates both. And when both sides sync together, the psychological pressure on the opponent becomes almost impossible to stabilize against. Let's start with the very first pitch sequence of the game. Ohtani leads off. Immediately, Colorado's starter is under pressure. Not because the game is already dangerous, but because Ohtani changes the emotional tone before the inning even settles. Then the homer comes, leadoff shot, instant deficit. Now think about what that does structurally. The Rockies aren't just trailing early. They now know the same player who just put them behind is also about to take the mound. That changes offensive psychology immediately, because now every at-bat against him feels heavier. Every missed opportunity feels magnified. That's the hidden factor in this game. Ohtani's offensive production amplifies the pressure of his pitching before he even throws a pitch. That's not normal baseball pressure. That's compression. And Colorado never escaped it. Now shift to the mound. 6 hitless innings, 7 strikeouts, 99 pitches. At first glance, it looks dominant, and it was, but here's where the game becomes more interesting. This wasn't peak efficiency dominance. It was controlled instability. That matters, because Ohtani didn't have perfect command all night. The 4th inning proves it. Walk to TJ Rumfield, then he hits Hunter Goodman. Suddenly, traffic. No hits allowed, but pressure is building. And this is where elite pitchers separate themselves. Not when mechanics are perfect, but when sequencing survives imperfect command. That inning could have unraveled, especially after the wild pickoff throw nearly turned into disaster. That's a critical moment people overlook, because the no-hitter wasn't really the important thing there. The important thing was emotional recovery. Ohtani loses command briefly, adrenaline spikes, one mistake almost compounds into another, and instead of speeding up, he stabilizes. That's elite mound control. Not emotional intensity, emotional containment. Then Willie Castro grounds out, bringing home a run. And here's the fascinating part. That was probably the most important moment of the game for Ohtani. Not the strikeouts, not the homer, that ground out. Because it forced him to pitch through discomfort instead of cruising through dominance. And great pitchers need both. The Rockies had a chance to create instability there. Instead, Ohtani escaped with minimal damage. That preserved the structure of the entire game. Now let's talk about velocity. His fastball profile this season is becoming terrifying. 0.82 ERA through 9 starts. That's not just good form, that's foundational dominance, especially when you compare it to last season's 2.87 ERA. And here's the key insight. The velocity isn't the biggest development. The efficiency of the velocity is. Ohtani's fastball has always been explosive, But now he's locating it earlier in counts, which completely changes hitter behavior. Hitters can't sit splitter, they can't cheat breaking ball. And once that uncertainty enters counts early, his secondary pitches become devastating. That's why 7 strikeouts almost feels low for how uncomfortable Colorado looked. The Rockies weren't just missing pitches, they were late making decisions. Huge difference. Now let's go deeper into the offensive side. The Dodgers only score 4 runs, not a massive offensive explosion, but the sequencing was perfect. Freeman follows Ohtani's homer with one of his own later in the inning. Alex Call adds an RBI single. Andy Page's homers late for insurance. Every scoring event arrived exactly when the Dodgers needed separation. That's championship offense, not volume, timing. And timing matters even more when your ace is controlling the game, because every additional run changes how aggressively the opponent has to approach at-bats. Colorado eventually started swinging like a team trying to catch up to Ohtani, not just the Dodgers. That's a losing formula. Now here's the turning point of the game. It's not Ohtani's home run. It's not the strikeouts. It's the 6th inning, because that's where Colorado still technically had a chance. No hits yet, but only down by 2 runs. One swing changes everything, and Ohtani shuts the door cleanly. That inning matters because it eliminated emotional hope. The Rockies weren't just being no-hit. They were being paced out of the game. That's what elite aces do. They don't simply prevent runs. They control emotional rhythm inning by inning until the opponent stops believing the comeback window exists. By the time Tyler Freeman breaks up the combined no-hitter in the 8th, the game already feels over. And psychologically, it was. Now zoom out to the bigger picture. The Dodgers are 36-20. They've won 12 of 14. And they're doing this while still dealing with injuries. Enrique Hernández goes back to the IL. Teoscar Hernández leaves with a hamstring injury. For most teams, losing depth pieces during a hot stretch creates instability. For the Dodgers, Ohtani minimizes instability by himself. That's what makes him uniquely dangerous inside this roster construction. He doesn't just add value. He absorbs stress, bad bullpen stretch. He dominates 6 innings, offense inconsistent. He homers leading off. Roster injuries, he compresses 2 elite roles into 1 player. That's not MVP value, that's structural value, and it changes how the Dodgers survive long seasons. Now let's address the historical angle. First player since 2015 to throw 6 hitless innings and homer in the same game. First Dodger since Don Drysdale in 1959. That's not trivia. That's context for how unnatural this performance actually is. Modern baseball was designed to make this impossible. The workloads alone should prevent it. Pitchers aren't supposed to hit. Hitters aren't supposed to maintain ace-level command every 5th day. The sport evolved away from this archetype because it was considered unsustainable. And yet, Ohtani keeps making it sustainable. That's the realization moment. We're no longer watching a novelty. We're watching a player forcing baseball to rethink its own assumptions about physical limits. And the scariest part? He still might not be at full peak yet, because right now, the rhythm between his hitting and pitching is becoming more synchronized each week. That's terrifying for the rest of the league, especially with the Phillies and Diamondbacks coming next. If this version of Ohtani continues, efficient fastball command, stable mechanics, controlled offensive aggression, then the Cy Young conversation stops being hypothetical. It becomes unavoidable. And once that happens, baseball enters completely uncharted territory. Again. In the end, this wasn't just a dominant performance. It was a demonstration of pressure control at the highest possible level. One player dictating the game before it started, then suffocating inning by inning after that. That's why the Rockies never really recovered, because Shohei Ohtani didn't just beat them with talent. He controlled the emotional pace of the entire night. And when he does that, baseball starts looking unfair.